I think from going back and working with some of the students at Queen's College, it's important that that we introduce different ideas to them, different kinds of careers. Everyone seems to want to be either a doctor or a lawyer, and those are quite marvelous careers, right? But Guyana needs many entrepreneurs, right? So one of the things that we've been doing, right, and yes, it's on a small scale, and it is at the Alumni Association level, is talking about or is encouraging students to be more entrepreneurial, right? To find problems in their environment, to look at problems and come up with solutions themselves, right? And then we will try to perhaps we'll try to underwrite the solution, help them finance solutions, right? So I think that it's important that all parties in Guyana, right, be exposed, professionals, as students, parents, right? I grew up at least, let me use the I word, basically spare the rod, spoil the child, right? But that is not necessarily the most effective way of parenting. They've done studies, right? Let's talk about what kinds of things that parents should be doing short of continually beating their kids that would enable their kids to grow up with confidence, right? And have a voice, feel as though they have a voice, right? I mean, I grew up, as you know, we're all about the same age, where I was told, children should be seen and not heard, right? Well, maybe that was appropriate then, but it isn't any longer, right? We're requiring people. The world is in requiring kids to be more engaged, people to be more engaged, and people to have voices, right? You have an opinion, right? You need to, maybe articulate it in a very respectful manner, but we need all voices at the table. So I'm really happy to hear that the government is encouraging professionals and as well as others to gain some additional exposure, right? And the diaspora can participate in that too, right? We can go back and give seminars. I don't have all of the answers, but I may have some, right?
What can Guyana teach the diaspora?
What can
Guyanese teach the diaspora?
Basically, I think that Guyanese have been very resilient, right? We've been through a lot, right, over 50 years, and we're still standing, right? And we are not only standing, we're moving forward, right? So resilience, I think, is a lesson that we can all take away, right? Being forward thinking, right? Just listening to Minister Hughes, I think that's fantastic, some of the things that she said in just a few minutes, right? So these are some of the things that we can learn and we can be proud of. That there are people, yes, I left when I was 15. People stayed, and despite things that were thrown at them, they were committed to the growth of their country, right? And they've worked at it, stayed the course, and here we are, 40 years later.
Desiree, Desiree, what are you hearing in your community? As a matter of fact, this is a question for each of you. What are you hearing in your respective communities from the women as to what they want? Several months ago, or even a year ago, there was this battle cry for change, right? And change came, or there's a change in government that came. What are you hearing from the women that they would like to see happen with that change or in that change?
Well, I think one of the things that is laudable, the change, is that we have a lot of women in leadership positions in our government, and that says a lot for women. Because you see women, you hear from them. Kathy, for instance, she's a great voice. And so our women know that there are women there who are leading for us, who are leaders, who we can look up to. I want to hone in a little bit on what Kathy said earlier about most of the skills needed to move the country forward are found in people in diaspora. And we got to be very careful with that. We were talking about communication a little earlier. And we got to be very careful to communicate that carefully to our people, because people are talking about all these foreigners coming in and taking up positions and running things, so to speak. And we have to be careful to let people know that you communicate to them that the people who are coming are people who have this skill, that skill, or whatever. You just see people taking up positions and you don't know who they are sometimes. I might know some people because I've been around for a little bit. I'm 60 years old. But I mean, we got to be very careful. The people in Guyana, or the people who are responsible for the new leadership that we have, who worked hard, and our youth have to be really lauded for that. Our youth really came out and voted. Youth never used to vote. They used to say, well, there's no hope. We don't need to go and vote. You know, it's not about us. But this time around, our youth really played a meaningful role in ensuring that our leadership is as it is today. And I think it is very important that we remember those things. And when we're speaking about bringing people or saying that most of the people with the skills are out of Guyana, we have to be careful, because there are people here with skills who kept Guyana going, like one of our speakers, I think Karen said a little while ago. And there are people who are still here working. They're entrepreneurs, they're experts, they're people who did buildings, who have businesses, who are here, who were here in the fight, who are still here. And we have to be very careful that we do recognize that and talk about it while we're talking about the diaspora. But I think our women are hopeful. Our women have always been the ones at the forefront for me in the fight. Our women have been the ones who are more outspoken. Our women are the ones who are willing to lay down their life, lie down on the train line to stop train from traveling and that kind of thing. And so our women in Ghana have always been the stronger ones. We're emotionally stronger, but apart from that, we have always been the ones at the forefront, fighting and putting down our life on the line for our country. And I want us to always remember that.
You know, Desiree, just listening to her gave me goosebumps. Right? It really did, right? I'm not sure why, but I guess just hearing from someone who is on the ground how instrumental women and youth were, right? You know, it was basically very moving. But more than just moving, I think it really speaks to the strength of Guyana. And I would like to see the women and the youth, you know, their energies be harnessed, right? And while some of the skills that are needed might be out of Guyana at present, when they do arrive in Guyana, right, they should, a major part of their mandate should be to develop some of the people who are in Guyana, right? Develop some of those women, develop some of the youth, develop men, right? We need all hands on deck, right? So it's, you know, just I'm really happy that you invited me to be a part of this, because to hear them speak, to hear the other women speak is inspiring.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the other thing. Yes, go ahead, Kathy.
I want to just add to what Desiree said, because part of the challenge, I think, is that in most Caribbean countries in 2016, we still assume that the person that comes with the foreign cloak is the person that is actually more qualified or is bringing something else. And that's why Desiree is absolutely correct in that we have had situations in Guyana where for many years we have not provided the same kind of opportunities and incentives to local Guyanese living right here as we would provide to a foreigner. And we see that in our investment agreements. I mean, I used to constantly argue as someone that ran a small hotel and a jazz club in the past, that somebody coming in from the US willing to invest in a property maybe the same size or maybe a little bigger than me would be able to get duty-free concessions and all kinds of different financial benefits that were not allowed to someone who ran a small hotel. And similarly, when you look at even the system of remigrants, I remember when I came back to Guyana and started Evening News, And one of my colleagues, who was equally and just as well qualified as I was, turned to me one day and said, imagine, because you were out of Guyana for 15 years, you get to bring your car in duty free. I have to pay for that car twice. And that's why there are some systemic issues and biases that work against Guyanese. And that's why I think we just touched on the resentment that is perceived to exist in some situations. I don't think it's across the board, but yes, when you have those kinds of situations, it will bring a resentment. And I spent, as I said, 15 years out of Guyana, and we know that there are people in the diaspora, when they come back home, your whole attitude, and I'm not singling out anyone specifically, but there are people that come with this attitude that they've come back home and they know it all. And therefore, there's a certain amount of talking down.
Yeah.
You know, oh my God, you all still have mosquitoes? Haven't you dealt with that yet?
Does it still rain?
I was at an event in parts of the Everglades, and the mosquitoes nearly took me away. And that's ignored, you know? So those are the kinds of things, and that's why I'm glad we use the word sensitivity. Because people in the diaspora have to come home and be sensitive to these issues. I always remember being part of a team in going to Toronto, and this was a good maybe 20 years ago, well, maybe not so long, between 15 and 20 years ago. Unfortunately, the day we landed, I remember the consular officer, I was saying to them, well, what are the issues people want to know about? And he said, oh my God, crime is a big issue. And I started to think, well, you know, how do we address it? Because it is a concern. But guess what? We stopped by the mall in Toronto. I forget what's the name of it. Eaton Centre. And 2 hours after leaving Eaton Centre, there was a shootout. And in a kind of a way, I was happy that the next morning in my presentation, I could say, we're working on crime. We got problems. But guess what? Most parts of the world have it also. And so those are the things that I think need to be said in a discussion such as this.
Definitely. In answer, Selwyn, in answer to one of the questions you asked, I want to say that what Guyana can always teach us is about our culture. We have to remember that is the center of our culture. And as Desiree was talking, that is what came to me, you know, that we a lot of us moved, and Guyana moved and kind of became a virtual reality kind of thing, with everybody celebrating Guyana on social media and that sort of thing. But we have to remember that also that Guyana, that this center of where it all is in that physical 83,000 square miles, and those people who stayed there and are living it and developing it. So that's what I think, you know, we all have to remember. That is, you know, what Guyana can give us all.
And so how can we foster solid? Go ahead, Desiree. You were saying something?
That if you can live in Guyana, you can live anywhere in the world. I mean, you can come through in this country. You know, when I leave Guyana and I go outside, I feel like it's so easy. When I come back home, so I'm going back to the plantation, because this is where my struggle is. I don't have any struggle when I leave Guyana and go outside, and things are so easy, so comfortable. And so I always say that the real people who are the winners are the people who have remained in Guyana and been through it all and are still here. And I can still hold my head high. I'm not ashamed of my country.
But
whenever I hear people ask me where I'm from, I have an accent, and I said, well, I was taught the Queen's English in school. And so in Guyana, we're taught proper English, so I can speak proper English. And I'm always proud to say that I'm from Guyana, and sometimes people don't want to believe it. But, you know, we are the ones who can say that we've been here, tap ourselves on the shoulder, and we have been a part of this fight, and we have won this fight, regardless of however you want to take that. But we have won, and we're better for it now. Hopefully we'll get better in the future, but we still have to be careful, like Kathy said, of those people who want to talk down to us. And I have experienced it since the government has changed. I've experienced people who come back and do work who have talked down to me. But of course, I can represent me. But I mean, we really have to be careful, because it can turn people off and tune people out. And remember, we still got elections coming up for the next 5 years, so we got to be careful to keep the support we have right now. The next 5 years.
So what I'm hearing is that we're not saying that the diaspora is not important and we don't need a diaspora. What we are saying is that there must be some sensitivity in communication and respect across the board. That's what we're saying.
But you know, if I may jump in,
Go ahead,
Brian. I think if one is to be a good leader, good manager, Brian, good anything, you should not be talking down to people, right? So whether Guyanese or go to Guyana or here, right, we should be speaking to each other with respect, right? And so this is something that we all should learn, right? And try our best to practice. Sometimes, yeah, you may backslide, right?